Welcome back everybody. So on the previous videos we've been having a look at CODESYS and we've been having a look at their HMI, their visualization manager, and we've looked at creating a basic project and using things like buttons and using things like lamps and controlling that via the PLC program and displaying that through the actual HMI. Then on the previous video just before, we looked at some elements where we can control values. So we had a potentiometer, we had a bar graph, and we had that information being displayed inside of there. What we're going to have a look at now is more about the actual design of screens and the management of screens. So where do we store all this information? Because you wouldn't just have this on one screen. What you would do is you would spread this across multiple screens, and you would allow this to go through just like a folder system on Windows, or where you can go through to your start menu, you can open up different applications. Same thing with an HMI. So what we're going to do is jump into this video and we're going to create a couple of screens and show how we can navigate between these screens. We might create some headers and footers of these screens as well, and then we'll show you how we can put information on these different screens and using different tools as well to create these screens for us. So let's get started. So here I've got our screen from before, which has got our push buttons on, it's got our lamp on, it's got our potentiometer, and it's got our bar graph. Again, all of this information is on this one screen. Now if you notice here, this isn't just our entire screen, this window here. I can actually scroll down and we can see this is our whole screen, and I can scroll to the right and this is our entire screen here. What we can do is we can actually change this. So if we've got an application that we want to place this onto, if we've got a monitor that we want to place this onto, and this monitor is using a certain resolution, we can change the screen to reflect that resolution. To do this, what we would do is go to our visualization on the left hand side, this screen over here, right click it and go to its properties. From here we can get our main information of this, but if we go through the visualization, this is where we start to change the actual size of the screens. At the moment it's got use automatic detected visualization size. I can include a background image if I wanted to, but what I want to do here is say use specified visualization size, and here you can see 1024 by 768. This is like your 760p. Now what we can do is we can change this to whatever we wanted. So if I said 800 by 600 and I just clicked apply on that, you'll now see that this screen here shrinks. If I change this to 1000 by 800, again you'll see that screen changes size. Now I want to keep this a little bit more manageable for myself here. What we'll do is we'll set this to a smaller size just so we can see everything on one screen. I'm not having to scroll up and down. So we'll set this to, let's have a look at 800 by 600. There we go, there's our screen. So I'm happy with that and I'll leave it with that for now. Now we can see everything without having to scroll up and down. We can zoom in just by holding down the control key and using our scroll wheel to zoom in and zoom out, and we can see down here the actual current zoom we are in. We can then change that back to 100 to fit that screen. So if I change it to 150, I can zoom in and see things a little bit more. Just bear in mind things will get a little bit blurry on these images here. So let's zoom out just so it starts to fill the screen a bit more. At the moment, I've just got one screen, so I want to create a couple screens. I want to create a home screen, so what I can do here is I can right click this and I can go to its properties, and where it says visualization I can change this to home and say yes to that and say OK to that. There we go, there's our new home screen now, and we can create another screen on top of this, and we can say this is going to be like our control screen. We can create a screen for alarms, we can create a screen for trends and traces. To do that, all we'll do is we'll just right click our application over here, add object, visualization, and here we'll create a control screen. There's our control screen. Again, it's not going to have the same information as this one over here, so if I go to properties, this is set to 800 by 600, so I can go to properties over here, visualization, use specified, 800 by 600. I believe you can also copy and paste these screens if you wanted to, and there's our next one. That way we don't have to redo all the sizings and that. It's also useful if we've got sort of like a template that we want to follow. So let's just backspace out that home one there. I want home and I want control. on our home screen, we're just going to start off with the blank screen over here. Oh, we are on the home screen. What I'll do is I'll take all this information and I'll cut that and I'll drop that onto our control screen. Move the bar graph in a bit. Let's go back to our home screen. So we've just got a blank screen. What we can then do is we can then add some elements to this just to make it a little bit more visually pleasing. We can change things like backgrounds as well. If you right click on this white area and go to background, we can then say use color or use image. If I say use color, I can then drop this down and I can choose a whole selection of colors. Or I can click on the little 3 dots there and I can bring up a range of colors for us to choose from. And if I just go to define custom colors, I've selected a color that I want to base off of, and I want to sort of change it to a light bluish grey. So just a light blue grey. Knock that down a bit, and then we'll say okay to that, like so, and then say okay. So there's our light blue our light blue grey screen in front of us. So I can then do the same thing for the control screen. Again, I can go to this, I can go to background, I can then use color, I can then drop this down. Now if I'll try and look in here for that previous color, it might not be in here. So what I might have to do is I might have to go back to these 3 dots and find that color again. The better thing to do would be to go back to our home screen, right click, go to background, 188.198.207. So 188.198.207. So 188.198.207. And I can add that to custom colors. So there, now that color is available for me to choose. So I can say okay, and then if I wanted to create another screen and use that color again, I could do that, or I could just copy and paste the screen over. So let's go back to home. And what I might want to do is I might want to add a little header, a little banner at the top of the screen. So I'm going to use our basic controls over here, and I'm going to drag this rectangle across, and I want to position this in the top left hand corner. So we'll just say position 0, 0 on the X and Y axis, and the width I want to cover the whole screen, and that's set as 800. And the height, we'll set that to 75. So now I've got this little banner at top. Now I don't want to leave this as the white color, so what I want to do is I want to change the color. One thing to note about this is where we can change the colors from. You do have color variables. This is what changes state depending upon a variable. I want to access just the colors itself. If I expand this, you'll then see a normal state and an alarm state. An alarm state will trigger when an alarm has occurred. A normal state is just its normal state. Watch out for your use gradient colors, because usually this color section is just closed, and a lot of people look at this and think, this here is the only thing available to the colors. They don't even see this plus icon. So they start to go, how do I change the colors? Using gradient colors, I don't want that, I just want a solid color. Expand the colors folder and then expand normal state. Fill color and frame color. Frame color is this border around the rectangle, fill color is the color inside. What I want to have is the fill color and the frame color being the same color, and what I'll do is I'll go to define custom colors, I'll click on custom color, and I want to change it to a little bit darker, and add that. I just overwrote the original color. Well, add that to my custom colors and then say okay. So I've got this little darker color here, and I can then go to our frame color, drop that down, click on the 3 dots, click on custom colors, and now that sort of blends in all as one. So I've now got that available to me, and if I wanted to, I can also copy and paste that, and I can position this at the bottom of my screen. So again, x-axis would be our 0, the y-axis would be 75 off of 600, which would be 525, and that's there. And I got that because 75 is the height, 600 was the full height of my screen, 75 off of 600, 525. So now I've got this sort of like bottom screen, this left screen. You could, if you wanted to, have seen some designs where they would have this sort of, if I just rotate that 90 degrees, and whoops, you can put this down the left hand side. I'll just minimize that a little bit, pull that down. Get away. And then you can put this over here. So you can have like a left axis and a top axis. But I'll just leave that as it was, so I'll just Control Z that. So now I've got this top element and I've got this bottom element here. The top element we can just have with information, so we can put things like dates on, we can put things like time on. If I go to date and time controls, we've got this information over here. If I want to, I can just put in some text. So what I can do is I can go to common controls and go to label. I believe I can actually go to the rectangle itself and I can go to its properties, open up text, and I can just type in there home, and this will put this in the middle. Now if I want to put this text a bit better, I might use that labels icon instead and then drag this to where I want it to be. But what I'll do is I'll call this home, and I want to change the text properties. So again, if we just go through to text properties, if I go through to font, click on the three dots, I want to make this bold, I want to make this big, 18, maybe 22. Okay, there's our home screen. We can work on it to make it a bit more eligible, make it a bit more attractive later on. But there's my home screen over here. We can also add some logos in if we wanted to, so I could just go to my visualization toolbox and I can go to image and I can drop that in, and then we can select an image as well, so we can add an image into our program, and then we can have like our logo, the company logo, and we can put that top left if we wanted to. So bottom you can then use for elements that we could use throughout all the screens. So if you've got things like fault resets, if you want to have a button to your home screen on all the screens, you can put that button down here. We can do other things like log in and log out properties. So if we want to just create a basic one, so if we go to common controls, go to the button and add this button in here. If I set its height to, if I set the width to 120 and I set the height to, again, let's say 50 on that side. There's our button there. So what I can then do is I can then change the color of this button if I wanted to resemble more of what my screens are looking at. To do this, inside the color, we've got element base color. If we click on that, I can click on those three dots, say okay to that, and now that button sort of blends in with that. But the problem is it's hard to distinguish that button. So we might say, well, I'll tell you what I want to do is define custom colors. Again, click on that color and drag it around a bit and maybe make it a bit darker, and we could then use that. So now that color is a bit darker on that side, so I could have a button there and I could add a text in, and I could say log in. Again, change the font itself, set this to a bit bigger, maybe 16 in bold. Too big there. Maybe knock that down to 12. Yeah, that'll do. Why not? So I've got my login, and I can have log out as well. And then what we can do, just to make this look a bit neater, put this and right click it, go to alignment, and we can align horizontal center. So there's my button there now. And what I'm doing is I'm basically just creating this screen. Now what I might have is I might have a splash screen over here, so like an overview of the process, or I might have like a control panel that the operator can jump between. So if we go to visualization toolbox, go back to basic, drag our rectangle across again, drag this down a bit, drag this out a bit, fill it out a bit more, and I was hoping I had some sort of center, but what we'll do instead is I'll just align that, align horizontal center, whoops, not bad, right click, alignment, align vertical center. So I put it in the middle there, and then what we can do is we can get this X and Y position, and we can tweak that until this thing is in its sort of like middle position. And I'll say that looks fine there, maybe a bit more down. There we go. So there's our control panel. Let's change the color of this control panel. So if we expand colors, expand normal state, the fill color, let's drop this down and let's go more with a gray itself. And then maybe the frame color, maybe we do a sort of dark gray. So let's set that to a bit of a darker gray. So there we go. And then what we can then do is we can then create more buttons. So we can go back to our visualization toolbox, go back to common controls, drag our button in. Now we might want to set this button to a bit more of a different size. So maybe we say, right, this button is going to be 200 by 100. No, too big. 200 by 75. By 55, that'll do. And then again, we can just put this into its center. Align vertical center. There we go. So now we got this button in the middle, and we can maybe say, right, this is going to be our control screen. So this will take them to control. Again, let's change the font. So let's click on the 3 dots. Let's bump that up to about 11. That looks a bit better. And what I'll do is I'll do the same with this. So I'll go back down to 11. And let's maybe take off the bold. Let's put it back to regular. There we go. That looks a bit better than the bold. Right, so now I've got the control screen. Now what I want this to do is I want this to jump to the control screen. So to do that, click on the control. And we want to go down to input configuration. And then where it says on mouse down, or you can even use on mouse click. Where it says on mouse click, go to configure. Go to change shown visualization. This is talking about the display. And then just add this in. And then where it says assign, go to the 3 dots. Make sure you're in the category section. Make sure in your property section and click on the control screen. And then select OK. And what we'll do is we'll just save this. We'll log in. Say yes to that. And we'll then start it up. And what we should then see is there's our control screen. Don't worry about this entire background here. This is just filling up this remaining screen. This is our screen here. If I now click on control, it should then take me to my control screen. Right, so let's disconnect. So log out. Now what I want to do is I want to take this, because you could put other buttons in here, like I say, you could put like an alarms window or stuff into there. So we're going to leave it as control. We haven't got any more screens here, but what I want to do is I want to take some of these elements and transfer them across to the control screen, so it's got some sort of familiarity when you jump to that next screen. So I want to take this top rectangle, I want to take this bottom rectangle, and I want to take the login button and copy that. Go back to our control screen, maybe move this stuff inwards now, and paste. Change this text up here, change this to control, and then I can start to fill in my screen from here. So maybe I want to reduce this bar graph some, maybe keep it low, but I want to put it sort of in the middle. So if I go to there, right click, alignment, center vertical. I then want to just reduce my potentiometer a small amount. There we go. And maybe have that sort of in the middle of the screen. Let's have the size being actually no, we'll just, there we go. If I had the size a bit too wider, you see, what that would have done is if I went to go center vertical, it would center it to this point, it wouldn't be centered. So if I keep this sort of together, now if I right click my anchor point, right click the potentiometer, go to alignment and go to align vertical center, that puts it in the vertical point, and then I can just drop this down from here, and then I can just have my start button, my stop button, and then my lamp together. Now what I can do is I can click here, click here, click here, right click, alignment, and I can center horizontally. I can then right click again, alignment, and then I can make vertical spacing equal or make horizontal spacing equal. So if I make horizontal spacing equal, it keeps the spaces in between equal. And then what I can then do is I can group this for now. Click on my anchor point, click on this, right click, alignment, align vertical center, keeps it in the middle. And then to keep all this vertical, I can make this spacing equal 2, and it just keeps it all spaced out neatly. group it all, shift it all up a little bit to make it into the middle of the screen, and now I've got my control. Maybe I want to make that slightly bigger, which I can do. So maybe I want to say the width is going to be 210 by 210, and I then just again right click that, alignment, align vertical center, click click click, alignment, make vertical spacing equal, and there we go. Now I've got my control screen. Ungroup that, but now I want to have a home button, so I copy the login button, paste that, and maybe I just keep that on the left hand side. Again, using my anchor point, which is going to be this login button, click on the next button and right click, alignment, make horizontal center. Use the tools for alignment because it just makes the screens look slightly neater. So then change this now to home. Other things that I'd be looking for is I'd be looking for like the spacing here and the spacing here, wanting to keep that sort of centered as well. And you know, you could be very precise about this if you wanted to. We can use sort of another thing that we can do as well, which helps us out, is we can use tools like a rectangle. We can then create that to a certain size, and we can then position that in a certain location, and then we can make sure that it's equal on both sides down to the right pixel. Because the hardest thing with HMI control is making things, the hardest thing with HMI visualization, not control, is making things look good, because everybody sees your work, and it's the same thing with SCADAs as well. Now, I'm rushing things a bit here. I've already been on this video for about 20 odd minutes now, and I'm just putting this together. If this was a real project, there'd be a lot more time spent in the actual visualization element. So what I want to do is I want to just change this home button. So if I go down to input configuration, again on mouse click, change shown visualization, add this into here, click on the 3 dots for assign and go to home, and then say OK, say OK. Now what you can do is we can then set up this login button if we wanted to, and we can say again on mouse click, and you can even open up things like dialogues. So we could say open up a dialogue, and we can then change what that dialogue does. So we can open up like a login dialogue. I don't know if anything like this has been set up just yet. I don't think I've set anything like that up, but we can just say OK for now. And now I could, if I wanted to, copy that login button, go back to the home, get rid of that login button, and then paste that again. So now it's got that new set of elements inside of our properties of opening up that dialogue. Now if I save my work, log in with online change, say OK to that, let that all go, and it's already playing great. So I've got my login button down here, got my control button up here. Again, I might look at this and go, ooh, I want to keep the colors the same, so I may want to keep these colors the same as this color, I may want to change that color to this color. We can do all sorts of things with this. So if I click on the control, takes me to my control screen where I can then change the potentiometer, and I can see that reflecting on the bar graph. I can see my color of this change. I can then stop that if I wanted to, go back to home, takes me back to home, go back to control panel, go back to home. Looking at this, I might say I don't want the grays, I want to keep it this blue scheme, or maybe go with a lighter gray, or go with more of a blue gray, just so it falls in with this blue scheme that I've already created, because that there to my eye looks a bit off. But hey ho, it's only been 20 minutes guys. Click on control again, and let's just click on this login button and let's see what it does. Looks like it's grayed out the screen, and all there. So it's got us our little login there where I can then enter some text, and I can then log in with a password and do whatever I need to do. None of that's been set up, so we don't have to worry about that just yet. But there's my login button from there. So let's just log out there, and there is just some basic screen management and screen control bouncing between them. And like I said, we can just create these visualizations on the left. And now what I might want to do, if I ever want to create a screen again, is just copy the home button or copy the control, paste that in, and then I've already got this thing designed with the bottom bar, the top bar, and then I've got the home button, the login button already there. I don't have to do anything else. So I'm just going to save my work, and I'm going to be happy with that. Again, we'll go through and tweak things like tweaking the start push button and stop push button to resemble these style of buttons if I wanted to. We can do all sorts of things. I can even change this colour of the lamp. I don't think I showed you on the previous video, but just quickly, if I wanted to change that colour of the lamp, click on the lamp, and then on your properties at the bottom, it's got their image. We can then drop this down and change this to whatever we want, like a grey lamp, for example. Now that's your grey lamp. So you can change the colours of that too. Now that's been screen management and screen control. What I'd like you to do is have a go at creating some screens yourselves. Have a go at creating a home screen and then a control screen, and put your own style to it. Spend a bit more time than I've done, and spend a bit more time tweaking these things and making them look nice. When you've created your screens, I'll tell you what you could do. Screenshot your screens, and then if you've got LinkedIn, if you've got Twitter, tag us in your screens with Scantime tutorials. So use something like hashtag Scantime tutorials, and we can then check them out and give our little reviews on them as well. Have fun with that one, guys. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video.